Welcome to Scoop World Order Training Camp Edition. We are rolling along. This is the last Sunday for a long time with no football. The preseason is starting up. The Browns face off against the Jets in the Hall of Fame game, which featured DeJuan Jones and Luke Whippler, who both did fantastic. Heartbreaker, KJ Bolden commits to Florida State University. It's going to be one that we're going to remember for a while. Did he get bought? I think he did. But more importantly, we're in fall camp. So as much as these recruiting heartbreaks are sad, we've got a really good football team we're excited about. And they are grinding. And Ryan Day's putting the screws to these guys, man. They're doing twice as many reps, rapid fire, getting good evaluations on these guys to see who our quarterback's going to be, see who these O-linemen are going to be. It's really exciting stuff. So we're going to get into that. But first, as always, thank you guys so much for being a part of us. As always, you guys are a huge part of Buckeye Scoop, what we do on here. Again, we do these live shows. We love interacting with you guys. We appreciate you guys jumping on with us, kicking it, bringing these awesome questions. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and help us grow our subscription base by sending this to your friends, your family, anybody that loves Ohio State football. We appreciate you sending it along because the word is spreading and we are growing, and it is all thanks to you. Very thankful for that. If you enjoy our live content, please click that little bell. You'll get a notification every single time we go live. You don't want to miss anything. And as always, shout out where you guys are watching from. We've seen you guys all over the globe. A lot of people in Ohio, obviously, Florida, California, Texas, Georgia. Keep cranking. I love seeing where you guys are watching from. I read every comment, and I appreciate all you guys do. With that being said, I am going to bring in my good friend who's probably about 6 margaritas deep right now, the great Nevadabuck, who is joining us a little bit international right here. But how are you doing, my man? What was your reaction to KJ Bolden? Do you care? Because we have a really good football team this year. I think he actually just might have slipped and went out, but we're going to keep rolling here. As always, the KJ Bolden thing was tough. I know a lot of people took that hard. There's been a lot of traction with Ohio State. The Perry Eliano thing was one of those deals where people were super excited just because of the relationship, the cousin. But I think that deep down, Florida State had the bag ready to go. They upped the ante. I'm going to bring on Nevadabuck. Sorry, we got a little bit of that. All right. Are you back, my friend?
I'm back. Did I lose you guys? I was going on a big bender right there. I was just like ripping into stuff.
Yeah, Buck is live with us right now. He's been in the margaritas. He's probably been in some quesadillas as well. How are you doing, my friend? How are you reacting to KJ Bolden? Do you have a sunburn? How has your time been so far?
Great. The KJ Bolden thing, it's like, look, I've said to you guys a million times, it's not those guys that you miss on that kill you. And I just don't think, Bolden's a great player, but, he went to Florida State. He took a big bag, by all accounts, it's a couple $1 million. And Ohio State's just not playing that game. And that's just not what we're doing right now from an NIL perspective. What Ohio State's doing is they're offering competitive NIL packages. They're telling guys, look, that's a fraction of the amount of money that you'll make in the league. If you want to go for the bag, go somewhere else. That's really not the game that we're playing. And it's kind of self-selecting players. So when I hear that, when I hear Bolden's doing that, when I hear his dad's, freshly out of jail and kind of handling the recruitment, then I'm like, I don't know, I'm the first one that'll jump on whomever at the staff if I feel like they didn't do a great job, if they didn't do a great job recruiting, if they didn't do a great job following up. In this case, I'm not quite sure what they could have done. And so from Bolden's perspective, wish him well. And, I'm solely focused on the guys that we have in the field because this is the deepest Ohio State team that I've seen in my years of covering Ohio State. And, that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the 2023 season. And I think it's a national championship season. It has every feeling like that. And lots of guys emerging, lots of good things happening after the first 5 practices. And that's what I'd rather talk about than KJ Bolden. But that's just me.
That's where I'm at too. Again, KJ Bolden's a fantastic player. He had been a great add to Ohio State, but I think a lot of these guys missed the boat and they end up regretting not going to a place like Ohio State. And, it's different if he goes to Bama or Georgia, but going to Florida State right now, a team that is seemingly on the rise. But man, if I'm KJ and I have a choice between Ohio State, Bama, Georgia, I'm taking one of those top 3, 2 defensive mentality coaches, and then, Ohio State, which has just been fantastic at putting guys in the league. It's a really calculated bet that 2 point whatever million is going to be worth it to go to Florida State. I don't like the instability of the Florida schools. There's been a lot of coaching staff changes. I know that the booster clubs are running wild. I know for a fact Florida State went after Urban Meyer to be their head coach. He turned them down because they don't have any money, and that's from a guy that, loves money, and a guy that, if Urban Meyer was the head coach somewhere, man, their NIL foundation probably wouldn't be sleeping very good unless they were raising tens or 20s, 30s of millions of dollars every single year, because he's not going to settle for second place, which is why, it's always compelling with Urban that I think that if he ever did come back, it would be somewhere where he has an unlimited bag and he could stack that roster up, because Ohio State, it doesn't seem like it's that place. Again, I think that it's fine that KJ Bolden went to Florida State and we lose guys to Miami Hurricanes for, what could end up being funny money. But, I think that if Urban was here, he'd be cranking it up a little bit more, and these collectives would have to actually go raise some more money, because he's not going to take no for an answer on KJ Bolden. And it would have been a rough day if he'd have lost his kid. But again, he made the best decision for him. I don't mind Florida State. We're a split household for Ohio State, Florida State. So I don't mind Florida State getting him, because I don't think we're ever going to see him again. He's not going to be in the playoffs. We're not going to see him at Georgia. They might be like an 8 seed when we go to 8 teams, but that's about it. But on to the current team. Wow. First 4 practices in the books. They moved to the hotel, doing that whole little dance right now. Nevada, early standouts for you. I mean, I think that it's easy to write Kyle McCord's name in ink after 4 practices. I think he was already kind of the heavy favorite. I think he was lights out the last 2 days from the people I've talked to. Commanded the offense. He threw a pick 6 yesterday, and after that, he didn't have an incompletion. He really locked in and leader. I think that he knows what's at stake, and you're basically playing to win the job to be the next first-round pick quarterback of Ohio State. What have you been hearing? Who are you excited about in terms of what we got going on through 4 days of camp?
Well, lots of players to be excited about, but one of the guys I want to take a little bit of time to spend talking about is Davison Igbenegson from the Ole Miss transfer. Davison is a special kind of athlete, because you're talking about a guy that they've got in the slot corner, which you don't normally associate with like your elite cover corner outside guys, but that's not why they have him there. They have him there because I think he's like 6'2 and a half, 215. I mean, this is a big, strong, strapped up guy, and they love him scraping off there from the inside off the slot, helping out of the run, doing so. So, when you talk about kind of these hybrid players that are, kind of all the vogue in football right now and in all sports, frankly. But Davison on the slot corner has just been amazing. And, I think him and Jordan Hancock, for me, are a big reason why the defense is running ahead of the offense right now, which is really to be expected. That's typically probably what happens most of the time. And certainly this year I expect it to happen. But those guys have really solidified the defensive backfield and doing a great job against the run and against the pass, against some really elite pass catchers. And I couldn't be more excited to see him, and the fact that we're going to have him for multiple years. It's fun to see Ohio State get better through the portal like that, because that's how you can get better, is having players like that can come in, start, and be part of your best 11. And he certainly is part of that best 11, and big time excited about him.
Yeah, I think we got big, lanky athletes, and that's something that, I think we're getting better at this year in terms of our top 11 guys. You're throwing Davison into the top 11, you're Sonny Styles in the top 11. Then you already have Tommy, who's the stalwart, linchpin All-American. Steel Chambers, great athlete. You go around the room, you got great competition between Jordan Hancock, Denzel Burke, and Davison between the 2 starting corners. But I think corner is a position where it's helpful to rotate both sides, just because I think that those guys, as the games go on, they get the volume up of the running. Like, you can, lessen the chance of a hamstring pull, muscle pull, especially early in the season when we're playing lesser opponents. Get all those guys good work. That's something that I thought Kerry Combs was really good about, was rotating corners. When we had 3 really good ones, because I think it's a really long season, like a really long season, and the fresher you can keep these guys, and then the more competitive, the more. I don't know if it's building camaraderie, but when everyone is kind of for each other, and it's not just, hey, I got to be one of the 2 starters, and I'm not going to be the third guy that rotates in the third series or whatever. I think that that's helpful. I love Sonny Styles at Sam. You had that months ago. They were trying to figure out where to put him. I think for his skill set, him playing Sam linebacker, which is walked out over the slot receiver, is fantastic. I know a lot of people are worried about him covering a slot receiver. I'm not. I'd put him nose on him. I'd jack him at the line with his gargantuan arms. I mean, he's 6'4.5", and he can run probably 4.5, I'd guess, 40-inch vertical. I mean, I just jack him at the line, cover him in space. You know, I mean, I think Sonny could do that literally all day because he's going to be a problem because, you know, if you ever run towards him and you have a little slot receiver, like Sonny's going to win that matchup because of the length of his arms, his explosion, his speed, and his power. He's going to be a terror. And then you could blitz him too. You could bring one of your cover guys over top the slot and bring him off the edge. And you know, you got him and JT coming off the wide side of the field. That is really hard for anyone to handle. And Sonny's the kind of guy with his arm length that'll be a tough matchup for running backs in pass protection. You try to put a back on Sonny, Sonny's going to kill him. I mean, he's 230, long arms. Most guys won't be able to touch him. And, you know, with his explosion, I mean, he's got the speed of you know, a really quick safety, but he has the length of a defensive end, you know, in terms of his arm length. So that is a tough matchup, man. So when you put Mike Hall, JT, and him coming off the edge to one side, that is, that's just absolutely terrorizing if you're an offensive line with a running back who's a smaller running back. So really excited. Obviously, I think a lot of people have consternation about the offensive line. I will tell you, the hardest thing to get back during training camp, especially as you start to put the pads on, they don't even put full pads on until Wednesday, is pass protection. Pass protection is a hard thing to get back. It's hard to do it during the summer. You can do drills. You can do drills on air. You can do mirror dodge drill against your fellow linemen. But there's nothing like actually doing it versus like a live bullet. Doing it versus JT, doing it versus Jack Sawyer, Kenyatta, Caden Curry. Like, that's hard to do. Like, those guys during the summer, they don't want to risk injury. They don't put on the pads and the helmets and go out and run into each other until camp starts. And pass rushing is much easier than pass blocking. So, you know, when you see JT murdering our guys early in camp, that's kind of how it always is. You know, I know people get a lot of consternation. But the good thing for guys like Josh Fryer and Zen Mikulski, who are running with the first team tackles, they're not going to see Jack and JT during the regular season. So, you know, they can take their whippings right now from those guys, but those guys are going to make them a lot better because all of a sudden they're going to get out and play Indiana week one. They'll be like, well, hell, this is easy. This is a cakewalk compared to, you know, blocking the Ohio State ends. And that was always kind of the running thing that we used to say is, look, the toughest guys we used to go against pretty much every year were the guys at Ohio State, you know, in practice. They were harder than, you know, when you play Marshall or Indiana or Cincinnati or Michigan State or, you know, Michigan usually had a guy. They had Woodley or, like, you know, they always have a guy, Hutchinson. But usually the guys at Ohio State get you right for those guys. You know, like, I mean, I used to talk to Thayer Munford. You know, he had to block Nick Bosa every day in practice. So, I mean, when he get to the game, it was like, he literally was like, it was like a vacation. Because when you have to block Nick, I mean, Nick makes everybody look bad. He's the second highest paid defensive end in the NFL right now. And that's just kind of what it is. Nevada, do you have any consternation about the defense being ahead of the offense? Are you excited about that? I know that, you know, you are the conductor and the leader of the Jim Knowles bandwagon. Do you feel good about the fact that against, you know, one of the top 2 or 3 offenses in the country, the defense is having its way thus far?
Yeah, like I said, I expected it. They're doing exactly what I thought that they would. Guys are stepping up, and you know, I think that's what you want to have. I mean, I don't have any doubt that the Ohio State offense is going to be prolific, to be able to put up points, and you know, that's not a question. I think the question is really establishing that confidence and that coherence and the organization on the defensive side. And I think that's what we're seeing happen through the first 4 practices for the Buckeyes. And you know, I expected it, but it's nice to see it happen, and it's nice to see guys that we know that were playmakers, that we know that were guys that can make a difference on a defense, step up and actually start making it. And you know, I think you know, Sonny Styles is going to be awful fun to watch this year, and you just don't get athletes like that. I mean, you know, for old school reference for you older Buckeyes, it reminds me of Roger Harper back there, and when Roger Harper was kind of patrolling for the Buckeyes, and you know, having those big, rangy athletes back there that can just, you know, deliver the blow and just do everything on the field. Just excited to have the Ohio State have some, you know, a couple of them, and I think it's really the key to the defense. And look, Ohio State's going to be first 3 games to kind of get things together. Then we're going to be challenged at Notre Dame. So I can't wait. Let's go. Season's right around the corner.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Some of the guys that have kind of shown up on the depth chart, I think that it's a little bit misleading when you label some guys as second team or third team or whatever, just because the way they're doing practice this year, this is a Joe Philbin thing. So he shows up magically. He's like, hey, Ryan, we should do 2 fields and do rapid fire reps because you'll get twice as many reps. You got all these good players. You got to evaluate them. You do analytics on them. You score. You grade every practice. You grade. I mean, they are getting a lot of reps for these kids, which I think is great because one of my pet peeves when I was coaching, especially during the evaluation phase of the season, which is training camp, is when you had, they have 105. You're allowed to have 105 guys in training camp unless they've expanded that, but you're only allowed to have 105 in camp. And when you've got 22 guys doing something during team drills, you've got 80-ish guys standing around, and that doesn't, the specialists, you have 8 specialists, long snappers, punters, kickers. They're usually not part of it, but you've got, 60, 70 guys that are standing around watching. So when you do the double field thing, and all of a sudden you got 44 guys rolling, I think it's fantastic because you really get a better evaluation of guys because everyone's getting more reps. Everyone's getting more turns. So instead of a guy taking 20 reps a day, he's taking 40 reps a day because of the speed and the factor. But I also think that it kind of jumbles, say like Luke Montgomery, they said he has a second team left tackle. I think if a depth chart came out, if we were playing a game today, I would think that, it'd be George Fitzpatrick or it'd be like the older guys would be ahead. But they've got kind of like these pods where they put, they mix guys up. Like one play, you'll have Luke next to Donnie Jackson. The next play is next to Austin Sowerville. The next play is next to, whoever the third left guard is. So they're really doing a good job of mixing guys. So it's not just the same guys with the same people every time. And I think that that's good because I think that it's not fair to evaluate, the tackles when only one guy gets to play with Matt Jones and one guy gets to play with Donnie, because those are the really good guards, the seasoned guards. I think it's important to rotate guys through and give them a crack with the top guys. Because let's be honest, Donnie Jones is a preseason All-American. If you get to play left tackle next to him, it's a lot easier than playing next to Austin Sowerville. It's nothing against Austin, but he's a true freshman. I mean, he came from Lakota East, triple option, run blocking. It's a lot different than Donnie, who's a projected first-round pick. And that's just being real. It's kind of the same way where if you're evaluating the quarterbacks and you've got Kyle with one group and Devin with another group, if Kyle's the only one that gets to throw to Mecca and Marvin, he's a much easier evaluation than Devin, who's thrown to maybe Carnell Tate, maybe Ennis, maybe Noah Rogers, maybe some of the young guys, Jaden Ballard. Just because, one guy's thrown to 2 top 10 picks and the other guy's thrown to the freshman. Like, you got to have a way to scramble it up so you can evaluate who's going with the ones, who's going with the top guys, who's going with the other guys, how do they do. But I think that that's fascinating. And honestly, kudos to Ryan Day. Like, I think that that's, the more reps you can give these guys, because the biggest thing that's changed in the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years is you don't have 2-a-days anymore. So you have to find a way to get these kids some reps. Back in the day when you had 2 practices a day, you didn't have to worry about getting reps. Like, everyone's going to get their 45, 50 reps every day because you do inside run, you do team drills, you do one-on-one drills. So, I mean, everyone's getting all their turns. But now that you cut it down to 1 practice a day, it's hard, man. And, then you have a walkthrough at night, but the walkthrough is not live, and it's hard to judge anything off of a non-live rep. I just done a lot in Nevada. What do you think about that? Because I think that, when you bring in these guys that are, I don't think people are talking enough about the value of Joe Philbin being there, because won a Super Bowl as the OC for the Packers, was around Aaron Rodgers, was a head coach in the NFL. You can never take that away from anybody. Been an O-line coach in the league for a long time. What kind of value does he bring to the program? And what do you think of the new enhanced reps that Ryan's getting out of these guys? Because I frankly think that that's one of the stories of training camp, and no one's really talking about that.
Well, I think the first story is that I think your dog just killed the UPS guy or something like that in the front lawn or something like that.
That's right, baby.
Go rescue him.
That's right. Hey, you come around here, man. He's gonna come. JoJo's gonna come at your neck. I promise.
But to your point, it's a great point, and it's been really, to me, it's been really the story of this fall camp has been this setup, and basically and it's not only enhanced reps, but as you said, instead of having guys standing around, you've got guys that are engaged. And so the comments and all the feedback that I'm getting is that the level of engagement for the players on top of the operational tempo is just way higher because of the way that they're doing it. And it's a very elegant type of, it just seems like it's a simple idea, but they're executing it very well. And again, like you said, we give credit to Joe Philbin. We give credit to Ryan Day for recognizing this and really kind of addressing the problem of how do you get guys more reps? How do you guys get money, more engagement? How do you up operational tempo when you're only allowed to have X number of hours, X number of practices, X number of things in a fall camp? Well, this is how you do it. And I think it's really, really smart. And do I think it's going to pay dividends for the Buckeyes? Absolutely, I think it will. I think it's a very, very clever innovation. It's an NFL type of approach to a college football program, and to me, like I said, I've been hearing nothing but positive feedback about it. And I think it's going to help in every way. I think it's going to help with early season cohesion between the players, and it's certainly going to help from an evaluation standpoint. Where you have question marks, you're going to get a very good idea of who your best five are because you're going to have a chance to see them twice as many times. So, no, I'm real excited about it.
I agree. Like, I think, when you're a young player, I'm telling you, these guys, there's always this saying, like in NFL camps or whatever, it's like, don't count your reps, make your reps count. Well, when you're getting a ton of reps and you get to make them count, then, there's a lot less Sanskrit where you're trying to decipher, well, is this guy good because he's going against the third team defensive end, he's blocking a walk on defensive end, or is he good because he's blocking, Caden Curry or Kenyatta, because again, like these tackles, like, when you go up from, Caden Curry and Kenyatta to JT and Jack, like that's like going from AA baseball to Pedro Martinez in 1997. Like, I mean, that's a big jump, and nothing against Caden and Kenyatta, but the JT and Jack are, I think, two of the top 5 to 8 defensive ends in the country. And there are 5 stars for a reason. I think that Jack is lighter. He's faster. The itch to go to the NFL this year is very real with him and JT. They've put in a lot of work, and now they get to show off all that work because they get to absolutely punish our tackles on every pass rush, which I think is good. I mean, because I'm telling you, when you're trying to evaluate tackles, it's a lot easier when you've got those two guys coming in than when you have a bunch of turds that can't rush. They don't have the speed. They don't have the moves. Like I said, our D-line pass rush is ferocious. And I know people think that's crazy because we only had 30 sacks last year, but Mike Hall didn't play much last year. Ty Leak didn't play much last year. Ty Hamilton, who I think is probably the most underrated player in the entire team. Those guys all have real roles now. Like the guys that we lost, God bless them, nice kids, but none of them got drafted. They soaked up a lot of reps, and honestly, I would have loved to gone against those guys because I thought they're easy to block. I watched them on film. They don't do much. They're not real strong. They're not real fast. Mike Hall is an absolute monster at nose guard, and you put him next to JT, and then again, you put Sonny out there. Like, Sonny is the ultimate X factor. You got him coming off the edge, man. It is scary, So again, I just think that, if you just look at the way the defense looks, you sub out, some of these guys, and then you sub in Dave Singh-Benosin, you sub in Sonny Styles, who really is the age of a true freshman, but again, he's that good, and he's on that 3-year plan, man. He's going to be heading to the league when he's a 20-year-old, so enjoy him while he's here, folks, and I think the defense does that. And honestly, I think that, year 2 at a defense is a humongous change, because these guys, there's no more wondering what to do. It's all reaction. It's all ingrained in their system. And it wasn't like that last year. I think it was like, obviously the guys like Tommy and Steele, obviously they knew it by the end of the year cold, but the depth guys probably didn't know it as cold, but now they do. And I think these guys, they've heard enough about Michigan. They've heard enough about Georgia, and they can't wait to just take it out on our offense and then take it out on Indiana's offense week 1. So super excited about that. I think from a running back standpoint, this is the best running back room that we've ever had, in my opinion, like in the history of Ohio State. And that might be crazy, but we've never had this many guys that have actually started games. Chip started last year. Evan Pryor is a guy who didn't play, obviously, with his ACL. He'd started a lot of places right now. Dallin Hayden started and carried us to that Maryland game. Travion was the best running back in the country. coming into the season. It's funny because last year coming into the season, he was the preseason All-American across the board. And then he had the lost season with the bad foot. Now everybody kind of forgot about Dre a little bit. And like, I think Trayvon's going to have a huge year. I think he wants to be in that Bijan conversation where he's a top 10 type running back. And he could do that because the beauty about being at Ohio State is we're never going to see a loaded box. Like when you have Marvin and Emeka, I mean, it's absolute suicide to load the box versus those two. So you better help out in coverage, which leaves for nice wide open boxes for these guys, for guys like Trey, guys like Mayan Williams. Nevada, I know you're a big Trey guy. I've loved Trey since his freshman year. I thought he was Saquon Barkley, our version of Saquon Barkley. I think he's fast. I think he's mean. I think he's read a lot of the mean tweets. I think he's really excited to prove a lot of people wrong. What are your thoughts on Trey? Because again, with running backs, you better go high in the NFL draft, man, because that second deal is looking less and less likely. So I think that's a motivating factor for guys like Trey. But what are your thoughts on him?
Well, I think he's kind of really established himself as the clear alpha in the room and having just a tremendous fall camp. Probably one of the alphas on the entire team, and on a team of freaky athletes, he stands out as a freak amongst the freaks. And I never understood the criticism of Trey last year. I think people really got on him, and I really thought it was unfair because he was clearly playing hurt. He was clearly forcing some things, and I think he's going to make people eat it this year. And believe it or not, for all the people that like to criticize and go, well, I'm not criticizing, I'm just motivating. Well, you did your job because he's motivated, and he's motivated to shut up a lot of people this year. And I think it's going to happen. You can mark this one down and to hold me to this one because he's going to have a monster season for a lot of reasons. But you've got a very capable offensive line. Like you said, you're not going to face a lot of loaded boxes. If they can find either one of the quarterbacks that can stretch the field at all and push the ball down the field so that you're more than don't not be checking out every time, then Trey's going to run wild. And I can't wait to see it because. That's the surest path to victory. The surest path to victory has always been run the ball. When you throw, you have to have a good throw. You have to have a catch. Good things have to happen. With running, you hand the ball and let it go. And I think Trey's our surest path to victory, and I think it's going to be a big part of why I think Ohio State wins the national championship this year.
I agree. I think you got again when it's hard, when when the throw game isn't working, when it's loud. When the biggest thing is when the defense is struggling. If the defense if they're not with it, if they just got gashed, if they gave up a long play, the quickest way to get the mojo back, especially on the road, is to run the ball down their throat. And I know people hate that. Everybody wants us to throw it to Marvin every time, throw it to Mecca every time. But help your offensive linemen out. Run the ball. O-linemen love running. And again, the amount of damage you do to a D-line over the course of a game, I've seen it happen. I've seen guys wear down. Hell, I saw our guys wear down last year, but Michigan wore our guys down. By the end of the game, everything was popping because our guys were getting hammered. So it's like we need to do that to teams like Wisconsin and teams like Indiana, or excuse me, Notre Dame, teams like Penn State, teams like, we got to go up to Michigan. Like I'm telling you, the thing is, man, there's nothing that takes that crazy crowd out of the game quicker than just watching their team just get ran over. And that's something that I think that, we could be better at. I think it's something that if you want to help your offensive line, help those young tackles that, combine whoever our two tackles are in the Big Ten, they're going to have one start because Fryer's likely going to be one of the starters. And if it's going to be Zen, if it's going to be Jimmy Simmons, because I get Jimmy Simmons had 10 starts or whatever at San Diego State, but that doesn't mean anything. Because San Diego State's not Ohio State. It's not the hot cauldron that Ohio State is. Nobody cares about San Diego State. Nobody watches San Diego State. He give up 75 sacks in a game at San Diego State. Nobody will ever know. You do that at Ohio State, everybody remembers it. It's a whole different ball of wax when you're in front of the bright lights, and that's what it either makes you break. And you see a guy like DeJuan. DeJuan played fantastic in the Hall of Fame game, and he was going against their first-round pick. DeJuan's a fourth-round pick. He was blocking the Jets' first-round pick, didn't give up a pressure, locked the guy down. And a lot of it's because of what he went through at Ohio State. He played, his last game, he played Georgia, and he played, some really good teams. So he wasn't rattled at all by the bright lights of the NFL because he's played in big games. He's played against JT and Jack, and frankly, the guy that went first round of the Jets probably is as good as JT or Jack. So I mean, Dwan handled him all night, and him and Luke Whippler combined gave up zero pressure. So shout out to my 201 guys that are balling out in the league. Nevada, as we keep cranking and wrap this thing up, who are some guys that you're looking forward to hearing about as camp dwells on? They've moved into the hotel officially. It is officially camp season now for the next 2 weeks. These guys are literally sleeping in the hotel, getting up at 6 a.m., heading to the Woody, staying there all day till about 9 o'clock, and then heading back to the hotel and going to bed. They do that for 2 straight weeks. Who are you excited to hear about? Who do you think it makes a move? Give me some projections over the next 2 weeks of camp.
Well, I'm gonna give you 2 names. And 2 names are guys that we've talked about before, but just have star written all over them, and that's Carnell Tate and Brandon Inniss. I mean, those guys are absolutely monsters. We knew that they'd be monsters, but sometimes, you know it. They've got all the potential, but they come out there and maybe they're a little bit overwhelmed, or maybe the game's a little bit too fast for them. The game is definitely not too fast for these 2 guys, and you're going to be hearing a lot about them. Julian Fleming's had a good camp so far, but he's going to have to really turn it up to keep these guys off the field because Brandon is just so good and so talented, and Carnell, again, you're talking about another Marvin Harrison, a Mecca type of situation with these 2, where they're surefire NFL 3-and-done types of players. So enjoy them while they're here, and I'm going to enjoy watching them as fall camp progresses because they're absolutely fantastic athletes and going to be big contributors to the Buckeyes this season.
I think Noah Rogers too. I think that a couple of guys that are in danger of maybe not losing their spots but getting the reps because I'm Julian Fleming and Jaden Ballard better get it in gear. I mean, I'm just telling you because these freshmen are not playing around. Jaden Ballard's the guy who had every opportunity to make a huge mark in that Georgia game, and the coaches don't trust him. If they don't put you in after Marvin gets knocked out, I mean, I don't. I mean, you're the same age as Marvin. You're the same age as Emeka, and they went with X because they trust X. That's just kind of. Do you want the inside baseball when guys don't play? They're as talented as some of these guys. It's because coaches don't trust them. Like when the game's on the line, when these coaches' careers and their families' livelihoods are on the line, because that's what it really comes down to, folks. Like when you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're watching, who do they go with? Oh, they're going with X, the walk-on, who's now on scholarship, and obviously he's a fantastic player, caught the big touchdown against Notre Dame, really versatile kid, but he's not as talented as Jaden. But for whatever reason, they went with him. It's because they could trust him. So, some of these guys, I mean, there's not much sand left in the hourglass. And when you've got some werewolves coming after you, chasing you, and those werewolves are named, Brandon Inniss, Carnell Tate, Noah Rogers. I mean, you got some monsters behind you. You better eat your Wheaties and get ready to go because those guys do not play, and they're coming for spots, man. I'm telling you, I love those kids. Those South Florida Express kids, they've seen the bright lights. They've seen the pressure. And none of it phases them because they've played in so many big tournaments. They've played the best 5-star cover guys in the country. And a lot of those guys are at Bama now, Georgia now, Florida State, Miami, Texas A&M. So, they ain't scared of nothing. So they show up here, man. They're coming to take a spot. They're trying to get out here in 3 years and go to the league. So, they're here on a mission. They didn't come up here from South Florida for the weather and just to kick it in Ohio. They came here to go get paid. So I'm super excited about those guys. Any final thoughts, Nevada? We'll wrap this thing up. I gotta go bury a body if my dog just killed somebody downstairs, which he might have killed another person, it sounds like. So shout out to FedEx and Amazon for working on Sundays. But any final thoughts?
No, just going to be fun to see how Brian Hartline implements the tight end in the offense. You've got Joe Royer, you've got Jelani Thurman, obviously you've got Cade Stover, D. Scott. You've got some tight ends, and I've been hearing more and more how they're trying to implement it. It's up until now they haven't really done as much, but I think the second half of fall camp they're going to start trying to unleash a little bit more of that, and that's going to be fun because we've got some athletes at tight end, as athletic a group of tight end as I've ever seen. And that's something, just kind of a little inside baseball there to keep an eye on. Tight end usage for Ohio State. Got some really good players, and I think they got some things in store for them.
There's a clear, like a tiered system at tight end. I think Cade is obviously the one. He's top tier. I think Joe is the second tier guy now. I think he's the guy that they're gonna feed. Again, you can always read the tea leaves from the Georgia game. Who'd they put in when Cade got hurt? It was Joe. It wasn't any of the other guys. So I don't think he's going to let that go. I think he's more talented than the other guys. I think Jelani's just too young. You can't expect an 18-year-old freshman to do much, no matter how good his bloodline is, how physically impressive he is. I mean, it's a long season, and camp is miserable and tough. And camp's the worst time of the year for these guys. It's gotten a lot better just because they've enhanced. The food's a lot better than it used to be. The hotel's a lot better than it used to be. But back in the old days, man, we used to move into that old dump hotel and eat terrible food for 2 weeks, and that was as hard as actually practice. So, these guys are literally, but it's a long 2 weeks, man. They're at that Woody from 7 a to 7 p, and it's all football. They do walkthroughs, and they get cut loose about 9 p.m. every night. So this is going to be a really slow 2 weeks for these guys. But hey, might as well make the best of it. It's like I tell these kids, look, stack your days, get those days going. Your day 4 is going to be better than the other guy's day 4. Your day 5, day 6, day 8 is going to be better than the guy you're going against, and the guys you're competing with for the spot. So super excited about that. Well, I'm going to wrap this one up. We appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this. Again, thank you guys for all your great comments. The chat is going absolutely bonkers right now. So thank you guys. As always, if you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little dinner bell. You guys will all be on here. Thank you to our regulars who are on here, and shout out where you guys are from. Love seeing where you guys are watching from. As always, there's get a kick out of that, and I love that. If you guys want the best coverage in Ohio State football, Bill Greene just put up a big article about inside the KJ Bolden recruitment. It's only on BuckeyeScoop.com. We're grinding every day, getting you guys the best inside access to Ohio State football. Again, we appreciate all of our subscribers, all of our new subscribers. We've got a ton of you, so thank you so much for signing up. It is your best companion to Ohio State football. We appreciate you guys because our board is absolutely nuts. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop fam. I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.